and welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Baseball Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and as always, it's great to have you guys on this Thursday morning. We got a lot to talk about on today's show, as we normally do. But before that, I just want to remind you guys to donate tips to the show. For tips or donations, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, it's on the ticker on the bottom. And also, for bonus coverage materials that are not covered on this live broadcast, make sure to go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network for all bonus exclusive content that you will not get on this live broadcast. So, like I said, we have a lot to talk about on today's show. Starting off the show like we normally do, we'll go through the latest news and headlines around the league. In the second part of the show, we are going to talk about the Cubs losing another tough game to the Braves in Atlanta last night. And because of that, that has allowed the Marlins to tie the Cubs for that third wildcard spot. And if the season were to end today, the Marlins would have the tiebreaker over the Cubs. So we'll get into that in the next segment, and we'll go through some of the other scores in the National League as well. And then in the third segment, we are going to talk about the Astros taking 2 out of 3 from Seattle in Seattle last night. Mariners still on the outside looking in, and now they have to play Texas for 4 games, which is going to be tough. So we'll talk about that and some of the other scores as well regarding teams in the American League. We'll go over the Blue Jays losing another game to the Yankees last night, and so we'll get into that in the third part of the show. We'll mention it. I mean, a lot of the stuff we'll mention for a little bit in the beginning of the show. So that'll be the third part of the show, and then to conclude the show, we're going to talk about the games for tonight, the pitching matchups, and what I see happening there. So that's the rundown for today's show. So let's kind of get into the first part of the show, which is talking about the latest news and headlines around the league. So obviously some big things happened yesterday. So first off, Ronald Acuna, he secured MLB's first 40-70 season. He stands alone when it comes to that. 40-plus home runs, 70 stolen bases, and he's basically the National League MVP. He is. He's just like last year with Aaron Judge and his 62 home runs. Ronald Acuna has done something that's never been done before. So, and he's the MVP. I mean, it's you can make some arguments with some of the other players, obviously Matt Olson and Mookie Betts, but Ronald Acuna is the MVP. So he was able to get that done last night, and now he stands alone as the only player to ever do that. Will it happen again? With the new rules, it's definitely possible. So congrats to him. And but something funny that came out of that yesterday. So the Cubs, they on social media you could watch the. I mean, obviously, if you're a Cubs fan and other ways of, watching the game, the Cubs broadcast was were not happy with how, when Ronald Acuna got the stolen base, I guess there was like a video tribute that was playing during the inning, so the game stopped, and the Cubs broadcasters were not too pleased about it. So if you want to go check that out, it's on Twitter. You could look it up on there, on YouTube. It's everywhere. Or if you have, MLB at bat and the subscription, you could rewatch the game. You can go find it. It's in extra innings. So so congrats to Ronald Acuna. But yeah, the Cubs broadcasters are not happy about it. I think also because losing yesterday and then blowing another lead again late in the game, and I was watching some of it. The Cubs had another miscue on the infield. I think it was Horner. He threw it over Dansby Swanson, and that was a throwing error in the game that allowed the Braves, I think, to tie it at that point. But we'll go through it. And then I think when Acuna was stealing a base, the catcher on the Cubs I don't even know whether he was throwing the ball. He just threw it into the outfield, like not even near second base. He just threw it into left field, basically. Yeah, so, it was not a good game for the Cubs. But, Yeah, so we'll get into that in the next segment. But yeah, like I said, the Cubs broadcaster's not happy about it, and it makes sense because right now the Cubs now have just lost, you know, the first 2 of 3 in Atlanta, and yeah, it's not looking good right now for the Cubs. Also, something to come out from yesterday, although the game was postponed and they're going to resume it today. I did talk about Miguel Cabrera and how it was his last homestand at Comerica Park, and I said, go and try to hit a home run and give the fans something, one last thing to cheer about. And he actually did end up hitting a home run yesterday, his 511th of his career, to tie Mel Ott on the all-time home run list. So actually, let's see where that puts him now on the all-time home runs list. Let's see if we can just pull that up. So he's at 511. So he's tied for 25th with Mel Ott on the all-time home runs list. So, if he can hit maybe one more this weekend, that would put him, ahead of him. So we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, that was a good start for Miggy in his final homestand. So we'll see. Like I said, the game has to be resumed. It was suspended. Right now, it's 4-0 Tigers in the top of the 5th against the Royals. So, and then the next game is to be determined for whenever that's gonna play. So, but yeah, another milestone for him. Also, another couple things regarding the American League. So the Mariners and the Astros, the bench is cleared in that game. Hector Neris on the Astros struck out Julio Rodriguez, and after that happened, he started walking towards him and screaming at him, and yeah, so it got nasty there. Allegedly, he was cursing at him. So yeah, it got ugly there, and the Astros did end up winning the game, but yeah, there was no fighting or anything. Really, just the bench is cleared, but yeah. So I mean, these two teams don't really like each other. Astros, again, that was a big series win for them. Mariners, I mean, these 4 games against Texas are very important, and if they're going to want to have any shot, they got to win these games. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Obviously, that's a series definitely to keep an eye on. Also, Garrett Cole last night pitched a complete game shutout, the second of this season. He did it earlier in the year against the Twins, but yeah, he was awesome yesterday. And I didn't realize until, well, obviously when I tried to turn on the game, that it was on Prime, and I was like, of course it's on Prime. So I ended up pulling it up on my phone. I did have MLB Network on last night, so they were, jumping in and out of games. So they had the Blue Jays broadcast on, so I watched it like that for a bit. But then I pulled it up on Prime because, yeah, Cole ended up going the distance. And Aaron Judge hit 2 more home runs last night, so that brought him to 37 home runs on the season. And again, Aaron Judge doesn't get hurt. I mean, he probably makes it to 60 home runs again. So, but yeah, the Blue Jays lose another tough game, and that's why, and they mentioned it on the Yankees broadcast last night, that it was really important that they, they took the first game because they were going to be going up against Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole just completely shut them down. And yeah, so Garrett Cole basically, and we'll touch upon it again when we go over the whole box score. But to just go to Garrett Cole's final numbers on the season, so he finishes with 15 wins on the season. He finishes with the sub-3 ERA. He's now in the 2.63 ERA, 209 innings pitched, 222 strikeouts, and a .98 WHIP. And listen, in a season where, a lot of things went wrong for the Yankees, at least Garrett Cole was, a bright spot. And he took the ball every 5th day, and, he's reliable. He's reliable. And it's just unfortunate that, this year was pretty much a waste. Another thing with the Yankees, so the I guess Hal Steinbrenner, he hired like an independent company to do like an audit to see what went wrong for the Yankees, to do like an in-depth analysis of what went wrong. Tongue twister there. So people are gonna maybe lose their jobs, maybe specifically maybe in the analytics department, because there was a lot of things that went wrong with the Yankees, and it seems like Hal Steinbrenner is very upset with how the season went. And you go back to, he made an appearance on the Michael Kay show, and he, talked about how why he was confused as to why Yankee fans were upset with, you know, how the season's been going, when at that point it was, in June. And then since that appearance, the season unraveled. And I think now he understands why Yankee fans were very upset at that time. So, I mean, we're just going to have to see how that goes. You're hoping that major changes are made. I think if Aaron Boone ends up getting fired and losing his job, I don't think that's enough. And especially because this season, I really don't think it's his fault. And I think a lot of Yankee fans are in lockstep with that. But you're going to have, obviously, the base of fans that think otherwise and think he's a terrible manager and he needs to be gone. But I think at this point in time, and obviously I came to the realization of that at some point, that there's a lot more behind the scenes stuff that those people need to be held more accountable as opposed to Aaron Boone. But, we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, Garrett Cole finishes off the year strong, basically solidifying himself as the American League Cy Young. I mean, it's a wrap. After last night, it is definitely a wrap. And especially because, listen, the Blue Jays, I mean, they just did not do anything against him the last these two times that they faced him, over the course of the last week. And, yeah, Garrett Cole delivered. I mean, he knew what was on the line, and he pitched well. And, obviously yesterday it was because of him and Aaron Judge as to why the Yankees won. Judge hitting 2 more home runs. And it really just makes you wonder, what happens if Judge doesn't bang into that wall against the Dodgers? Does he hit 62 home runs again? I think he comes close. He definitely hits over 50. But we'll never know. We'll never know. But, yeah, so I think that's pretty much it with all the major headlines from yesterday, in case I'm missing any. Because I usually just look at, MLB and see if, obviously what's trending. I mean, we did talk about the Cubs and the Marlins being tied. We'll get into that in the next segment. But yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to get into basically all the other things. I guess also Francisco Lindor hit 3 home runs in the doubleheader yesterday against the Marlins. So that was good for him, obviously. But yeah, also Terry Francona got a final standing ovation before he retires. Right now, being the Guardians manager, obviously that was his last home game with the Guardians. So yeah, so again, it's sad to see him go. Guardians go to Detroit. Obviously all those years with the Red Sox. Being part of that team that came back down 0-3 to beat the Yankees in 2004. But yeah, he was very touched by it. And yeah, he's going to be missed. So, yeah, but that's pretty much it when it comes to the headlines. So with that, we are going to take our first break of the show. And then when we come back, we are going to talk about, obviously, the third wild card spot in the National League. We'll go through the scores. We'll talk about the Marlins games with the Mets, and obviously the Cubs losing another tough game to the Braves in Atlanta. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about basically the National League playoff picture, but more specifically, get into talking about the Marlins and the Cubs, because obviously those two teams are neck and neck right now for that third wild card spot. The Marlins had a doubleheader against the Mets yesterday. The Cubs, they continue their series against the Braves. And as we currently sit right now, the Diamondbacks are 2 games up on both of those teams. They are in sole possession right now of the second National League wildcard spot. So obviously the Cubs losing a tough game on Tuesday, losing to the Braves. They had a 6-0 lead, and that ended up getting evaporated, and the Braves came back. And obviously Seiya Suzuki had that costly error late in the game that allowed 2 runs to score, and the Cubs lost the game. So yesterday, the Cubs again, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead early, and the Braves come back and they win again. And again, there was another error late in the game. So kind of to go through it. Actually, well, the Braves, they got a home run in the bottom of the first. I was looking at, because the first inning was cut off, so I just didn't realize that. So Ozzie Albies, he started off the game with his 33rd home run on the season. So that put the Braves up 1-0. Cubs tied the game on a passed ball in the top of the second. Mike Tauchman, he homered to make it 2-1. Ian Happ hit his 20th home run on the season to make it 3-1. And so there was a throwing error. So Marcell Ozuna reached on a fielder's choice. It was Horner. He was throwing to second base, and it was a bad play, and Swanson couldn't get it, and that allowed a run to score. The Braves, they had a chance to tie the game, but they ended up not doing so. I think they left the bases loaded. So we'll actually go to that. So that was in the 7th inning. So so got Michael Harris out. Then Sean Murphy struck out. And then Kevin Pillar popped out to end the inning. So the Braves, they really had a chance to do damage in that inning, but they couldn't cash in. The Cubs ended up not doing anything in the top of the 8th. Acuna singled. He stole his 69th base on the season. And then Albies singled to drive him in, and that tied the game at 3. Cubs again did nothing in the top of the 9th. Oh, actually, no. Never mind. I lied. Candelario walked. Yeah, and then Yan Gomes singled. And Dansby Swanson got hit by a pitch before that. So he scored on the play. So that made it 4-3. And then Marcell Ozuna in the bottom of the 9th hit his 37th home run on the season to tie the game at 4. And, so then we went into extra innings. Cubs took the lead 5-4. Then Pillar was at second base to start the inning. He ended up scoring on a ground out. It was 5-4. Then Acuna singled to tie the game at 5. He stole his 70th bag on the season. And then Albies singled to drive him in, and the Braves won again 6-5. And just another crushing loss by the Cubs. They've now lost 2 in a row to the Braves, 4-6 in their last 10 games, and the Marlins are tied with them now for that third wild card spot. So the Marlins, they had a doubleheader against the Mets. The Mets were all over them in the first game, winning 11-2, and then the Marlins ended up winning the second game, and that was a final score of 4-2. So we'll go through the scoring summary for both games. So the Mets in the first game, like I said, they were all over them. Pete Alonso hit his 46th home run on the season, put the Mets up 2-0. And he's another guy. If he doesn't get hurt, how many home runs does he hit this year? He's going to come close to 50. So, him and Aaron Judge both didn't miss time. They both would have had 50 plus at this point. Francisco Lindor hit his 28th home run to make it 4-0. Mark Vientos, his 9th home run to make it 6-0, a 2-run home run. Nick Fortes doubled to drive in a run, so it was 6-1. Jorge Soler sacrifice fly, it was 6-2 Mets. Lindor singled to score 2 more runs. Jeff McNeil singled to make it 9-2. And Nimmo hit a 2-run double to make it 11-2, and that was basically it with the Marlins. But yeah, not a good first game, but they did end up winning the second game 4-2. John Birdie hit a home run to make it 1-0. Lindor homered again to make it 1-1. Jesus Sanchez homered to make it 2-1. Lindor tied the game, hitting his 30th home run on the season to tie the game at 2. Yuli Gurriel reached on a fielder's choice to make it 3-2, and then Brian De La Cruz singled to make it 4-2. And yeah, that ended up being the final score. But quick thing to kind of highlight with the Mets. Francisco Lindor has had a solid season for the Mets this year. 30 home runs on the season, 96 RBIs, and 803 OPS, a 254 batting average, 30 stolen bases. He had a good year for the Mets. It's but unfortunate that the Mets kind of had the season that they ended up having. But that's encouraging. Going into next season, a productive year for Lindor. But so now we got both of these teams, the Cubs and the Marlins, tied. The Marlins, I think, have one more game against the Mets, or they're off. No, they got one more game with the Mets, and then who do they play to close out the season? The Marlins. If we look really quickly, because obviously the Cubs, they have one more game with the Braves, like I've talked about, and then they have 3 more games against the Brewers. Yeah, so the Marlins have 3 games against Pittsburgh. So right now, got to favor the Marlins. So right now, I'm leaning more towards the Marlins. And it's just, again, it's crazy because I really thought that the Cubs were a lock to make the playoffs at one point. Because it just, again, they were 10, 11 games over 500. They were riding high. And it looked really good. And then all of a sudden, they just have fallen off as of late. And now they might not even make it altogether. Also, I think Jake Berger, he got thrown out of the game. One of these games. I think it was the second game. Marlins, they end up tying the Cubs. They hold the tiebreaker. The Cubs still have a chance, of course, but tonight it's very important that they win this game somehow. But the Braves just kept coming back. Every time the Cubs took the lead, the Braves would come back, and the Braves ultimately ended up winning. And that's why the Braves are the team that they are this year. So, So, other scores. So, the Phillies, they beat the Pirates 7-6. I mean, they pretty much have the top wild card spot. We know that. They're going to have 90-plus wins by the end of the year. So, again, that's going to be a team that you're not going to want to face if you're either the Dodgers or the Braves. And especially for the Braves, since, I keep mentioning it, that the Phillies were responsible for knocking the Braves out of the playoffs last year. The Brewers, they sat a lot of their guys. They ended up winning 3-2 over the Cardinals. Diamondbacks, they picked up a 3-0 victory over the White Sox. So I think at this point, barring something crazy, it's safe to say that the Diamondbacks will have that second wild card spot. Also, another headline from last night, we'll bring it up in this segment. The Padres actually picked up their first extra innings victory over the Giants, winning 5-2 to improve to 79-80 on the season. So they can get themselves back to 500 and finish over 500 for the season. Right now, I think they're I don't think they're not mathematically eliminated yet, but it's going to happen. The Giants are mathematically eliminated, so they're out. The Reds are a game and a half back. They did lose 4-3 to the Guardians, as I mentioned, talking about Terry Francona and it being his last home game. And actually, Shane Bieber pitched. I actually did not know that. I thought he was done for the year. But yeah, he ended up pitching for the Guardians, and they ended up picking up a 4-3 victory. Shane Bieber actually went 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run. So, yeah, that's good that he was able to come back. I honestly did not know that. I thought he was done for the season. But, so good for him. But, Reds lose a tough one. Padres still mathematically in it. They're 3.5 games back, but it's not going to happen. But still, if they can finish over 500 or finish at 500, and it really does make you wonder. They win some of those one-run games. They're they're right there. So, but it's just crazy. So they are 1-12 in extra inning games. It took them this long to win an extra inning game this season. So, but yeah. So right now, as it currently stands, you got the Phillies 89 and 69, 7 games up on the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, they got the second spot, 84 and 74. Cubs and Marlins are tied, 82 and 76. Marlins hold the tiebreaker. Reds are a game and a half back. Padres are 3.5 games back. But it's not going to happen. But we'll see. You never know. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, that's pretty much it when you look at the playoff picture. Obviously, for the Cubs, back-to-back nights, costly errors in the field, and the Braves just don't give up. They were down numerous times in the game last night, and the Cubs just could not put them away. And Jameson Taillon actually ended up pitching a good game. So actually, we'll look at his stat line very quickly here. So let's see. So obviously, he gave up the run in the top of the first. So yeah, he ended up going 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and yeah, he gave up the home run to Albies in the top of the first. But they just could not hold that lead. The Cubs bullpen just could not hold that lead, and the Braves ended up, taking it. And listen, playoffs are different, obviously, but when you see the Cubs that are a wild card team going up against the Braves, who are the best team in baseball, you could see there is a difference. There is a big difference, and the Braves, they should go to the World Series this year. They should. But, again, you never know. With baseball, you just have no idea. But they're showing you why they are the best team. Because, they were down 6-0. They come back and win that. The Cubs kept, putting up runs and taking the lead, but the Braves just kept responding, and they ultimately won the game. So it's tough because the other night Justin Steele pitches a good game. You're up 6-0, can't hold on to the lead. Costly error makes you lose the game. Jameson Taillon, who struggled this year, pitched a relatively good game, and they still end up losing. So yeah, not looking good for the Cubs, especially because they're going to be playing the Brewers, and the Brewers very likely might want to stick it to them and just knock them out. And the Marlins, they're up against the Pirates after the Mets. So right now you got to favor the Marlins. So when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be Marlins, Diamondbacks, Phillies for all the wild cards, for the 3 wild card spots. So, but again, anything can happen. Obviously, today's Thursday. We got the whole weekend. So when I come back on Monday, it's we'll have to we're just gonna have to wait and see on that. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the second segment of the show. So obviously we'll look at the American League side of things when we come back from break. We're obviously going to talk about the Astros taking the series versus the Mariners. We'll obviously mention the benches clearing again late in the game. And then we'll also talk about the Blue Jays losing another game to the Yankees. And then we'll go through the other scores with that. With the American League, AL East, obviously, Orioles are getting close to clinching the division. And, and then that'll bring us into the final segment, which is previewing all the games for tonight. So with that, we are going to take our second break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the American League scores from yesterday, and obviously headlining that with the Astros taking 2 out of 3 from the Mariners in Seattle last night. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are going to talk about the American League scores from yesterday, more specifically the Astros taking the series against the Mariners. And actually, something that I wanted to mention in the first segment, not baseball related, basketball related, and obviously there's a show out for that, the basketball podcast here on the GSMC Sports Network with Kashan, so you could check that out and watch it. But Damian Lillard getting traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. So you're going to have now Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo together on the same team, which, I mean, and all the rumors you heard about was him getting traded to Miami, with the Heat. And he ends up going to the Bucks. So that's going to be something really fascinating to watch during the season. And once again with the NBA, it's like there's crazy trades and stars going to different places. It's wild. But yeah, go check out that with the GSMC Basketball Podcast. But that's just something. I mean, again, I wanted to mention it just because it's a huge star going from one team to go play with another star in Giannis, who is two-time MVP and a champion. So that is something that I wanted to bring up. So now let's get back into baseball. Just wanted to bring that up. But so obviously you had the Astros and the Mariners, and last night's game was crucial. If the Mariners ended up winning, they would have, I believe, passed the Astros, and they would have taken over that third wild card spot. So this was the rubber game of a 3-game set, and this is the last time these two teams will play each other. Mariners, they are going to be playing now a 4-game series with Texas, so that's coming up tonight, starting tonight. And the Astros were the team to come away with the victory, winning 8-3. So we'll go through the box score very quickly. So J.P. Crawford, he led off the bottom of the first with his 18th home run of the season. Yordan Alvarez hit his 31st home run of the season to tie the game. Mauricio Dubon, he hit a 3-run homer. That was a big 3-run home run to take the lead and put the Astros up 4-1. Suarez singled, a 2-run single in the bottom of the fourth to make it 4-3. Kyle Tucker doubled to score a run. Jose Abreu singled to score a run. Michael Brantley, he singled to score a run. And Martin Maldonado hit his 15th home run of the season. And it ended up being 8-3. And right now, as it currently stands, the Astros hold a 1.5-game lead over the Mariners for that third wild card spot. Right now, they're 87-72, and they are a half game back of the Toronto Blue Jays. Because right now, the Blue Jays have the second wild card spot, but the Blue Jays have lost the first 2 games against the Yankees. So, not very good for the Blue Jays, because now they could find themselves in the third wild card spot if they're not too careful. The Astros, obviously, they finish up the season against the Diamondbacks. The Blue Jays are going to be playing against the Rays once they're done playing against the Yankees. And then, of course, you have the Mariners 4-game set with Texas tonight. So anything can happen over this weekend. And the Blue Jays, I mean, once again, they are showing us right now in big moments, they shrink. I mean, they're losing the first 2 games. Now, obviously, yesterday you're going up against Garrett Cole, so the odds are kind of stacked up against you. And Aaron Judge is back in the lineup, and he hit 2 home runs. But the Blue Jays right now in the series with the Yankees have been outscored 8-0. They haven't scored a run in this series. So, I mean, tonight could be different. You got Luke Weaver on the mound with Chris Bassett going for the Blue Jays. They should win tonight. They should. I'm expecting them to win. If they don't win tonight, and then you're going up against the Rays, I mean, I don't know what to say. But to kind of go back to the Astros and the Mariners for a second. So obviously this game was highlighted by the benches clearing. And, I mean, listen, for the Mariners right now, I mean, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Now, the Blue Jays can end up like if the Mariners play great this weekend and the Blue Jays, they lose the series against the Rays, I mean, you got to like your chances. I mean, it's possible, but the Mariners, they got swept by Texas, and then they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Astros. So right now, Not looking good, but they're at home now against Texas. So we'll just have to wait and see. But right now it's tough. And the Astros, I mean, this was a big series win for them because they were reeling. I mean, getting swept by the Royals. That was huge. And it looks like Texas is going to wrap up the division. They did win again last night. Right now the Astros are 2.5 games back. Mariners are 4 games back. Yeah, it's pretty much a wrap, I think. I think Texas, they're going to get this division. And yeah, it's but I think I really do think the Mariners are going to be the team that's on the outside looking in. But we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, so let's go through the Texas Angels score. So it was 5-0 last night. That ended up being the final score. Dunning pitched very well, 7 innings, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Chapman got the hold in that, and Lex Lear. I don't know how to pronounce. I don't even know how to. Lex Luthor? No, I have no idea. That's a tough name to pronounce. I really got to look at the pronunciations for some of these names before, because I just, there are so many names I just cannot pronounce. Leclerc. I have no idea. Leclerc? Maybe. I was saying Leclerc. Yeah, no. Maybe it's Leclerc. I feel like that's that. Leclerc. I don't know. I gotta stop. All right, I'm gonna stop attempting to do it now. But yeah, let's go through the box score, the game summary. So Adolis Garcia, he had their first 2 runs. He doubled to score a run. Simeon scored on that. Hit his 38th home run on the season. Evan Carter hit his 5th home run of the season to put them up 4-0. Simeon his 29th, and that was the final score, 5-0 there. So, I mean, the Rangers are taking care of business. That's what they're supposed to do. Obviously, they did lose one of the games in this series against the Angels, but I think they have this division wrapped up. But again, the Mariners, they're playing the Mariners, so the Mariners are fighting for their playoff lives right now. So it's going to be a tough series, even though, they came off of that sweep against the Mariners in Texas. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. The Rays winning 5-0 against the Red Sox. Glasnow picked up the win there, so he pitched very well. Orioles did win as well, so they're getting close to that, to clinching that division. They got their 99th victory. They're gonna have 100. They're gonna have 100 wins on the season, which is crazy. Rays can still do that as well, but they're gonna have to obviously sweep the Blue Jays. So, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But yeah, the Orioles, they look like they're gonna get 100 wins, and that, again, that's just incredible that they were able to do that this season. Once they officially get it done. So yeah, but good for the Orioles. But yeah, they closed the gap in the division, and then obviously, yeah, you got the Blue Jays losing 6-0 to the Yankees, which, again, listen, you had a golden opportunity the other day to at least take the first game of the series because there was no Aaron Judge. Now you go up against Garrett Cole, who throws a shutout against you, and Aaron Judge hits 2 home runs, and you lose the game 6-0. I mean, it's not good. It's not good. I mean, now you're a half game up on the Astros for the second wild card spot. You're going to find yourself in the third wild card spot. And if that's the case, you better hope that Texas, does really well against the Mariners, and even if you don't do good against the Rays, because then you'll still make it. But you got to win games. They are not doing what they're supposed to be doing right now. And they only had 2 hits yesterday. That was the other thing too. And they were both by one player, Brandon Belt. 2 hits. That's it. Springer 0 for 4, Bichette 0 for 4, Vlad 0 for 3, Biggio 0 for 3, Chapman 0 for 3, Kirk 0 for 3, Merrifield 0 for 3, Kiermaier 0 for 3. I mean, nothing. I mean, there was only 5 strikeouts yesterday. But again, against the Yankees, I mean, the Yankees aren't good. I mean, again, I know it's Garrett Cole. So obviously, yes, it's going to be tough. But still, where's the urgency? It's not a guarantee you're going to have this wild card spot. And the worst thing for any team is having to rely on somebody else to get you in the playoffs. You got to control your own destiny. Right now, the Blue Jays still do, but they have to win tonight. They have to. Same thing with the Mariners. Going up against Texas, you have to win tonight. And I feel like anytime I say that, it's the team loses. Like the Cubs, like, you got to win tonight too. You have to. But, I mean, it's easier said than done. But, yeah, because there's only 4 days left. There's today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. That's it. Season's over after that. Regular season's over. Playoffs start. So for these few teams, it's not a guarantee right now. Like the Mariners right now, it's tough right now because they're a game and a half back, but that could change in an instant. I mean, if they win tonight and the Blue Jays lose again and the Astros win, I mean, it's going to be mayhem. It's going to be mayhem. I really don't see the Blue Jays lose. I don't see them losing tonight. I think they at least win tonight. If the Yankees win, I mean, that's good. Yankees played spoiler again. I mean, Yankees are already playing spoiler against them right now. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to wait and see. It's gonna be close. But I really am just. It's the same story, different year with the Blue Jays. They come up small in big spots. And the trend is continuing with that. Now, they end up making the playoffs and, doing well. Then I won't be saying that anymore. But right now, it's still remaining true. And they have a good pitching staff. Obviously Barrios, Aaron Judge kind of, had his number yesterday, hitting a home run off of him. But you got Bassett on the mound tonight. Gosman pitched a great game the other night. I mean, you're wasting some of these good pitching performances. Well, you at least wasted Gosman's pitching performance. Got Bassett on the mound against Luke Weaver, who is pitching for the Yankees in 2023. Now, Luke Weaver actually did pitch okay the other day against the Diamondbacks, I think, from what I remember. But that's a guy you got to hit. You got a very good lineup. This should be a game you win tonight. But if you get swept by the Yankees, I mean, I'm not taking you seriously. I'm not. But if they win tonight, that keeps them in the second wild card spot, and you won 2 out of 3 against the Rays, I believe. So the last time they just played them, so you're gonna have to do that again. Because if you don't, I mean, it all depends on what the Mariners do. That's the other thing too. Mariners got this big series with Texas. It's gonna come down to the Blue Jays and the Mariners right now. It looks like it. But again, the Astros, they're playing the Diamondbacks, so yeah. But some big series coming up this weekend. But so that's pretty much it with the third part of the show. So when we come back, we're going to preview all the games for tonight, and then that will pretty much wrap up the show for today. So before I go to break again, once again, I want to remind you guys, for donations or tips for the show, to tip or donate to the show and get your comments recognized, go to streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, it really helps the show. And for bonus coverage materials that are not on this live broadcast, make sure to go to patreon.com and search up GSMC Sports Network, and that's where you can find all the exclusive content, whether it's with my podcast, the Fantasy Football Podcast, the College Football Podcast, and the Basketball Podcast. So I just want to remind you guys of that. So when we come back, we will preview all the games for tonight, talk about the playoff implications with obviously a lot of those games, and that will pretty much wrap up the show for today. So stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the final segment of today's show, we are going to talk about the upcoming games. We'll preview the upcoming games for tonight. Obviously, we got today and tomorrow, and then obviously off for the weekend. So when I come back on Monday, then we're going to be doing playoff previews, for the wild card round, and everything will be finalized, which will be great because we still, again, a lot of stuff is still not finalized yet, and it really all depends on. It really is going to be on how this weekend goes. So, obviously, we're just going to go down the line with what's going on with today. So, excuse me. Obviously, you got Luke Weaver and Chris Bassett going tonight. Luke Weaver pitching for the Yankees again in 2023, and Chris Bassett going for the Blue Jays, who's had a great season. A pretty good season. 15-8, 3.74. I only said pretty great just because pretty good. Just because 3.74. The ERA is a little bit high, but again, 15-8. He's been a good starter for them. So, Blue Jays should win tonight. They should, but again, we're just gonna have to wait and see. You got Sonny Gray against Medina tonight. Sonny Gray's had a good season with the ERA being 2.8. Obviously, Garrett Cole, his is 2.65 now. But Sonny Gray's 8-8. And, the Twins, they do have a nice rotation. They got Sonny Gray. You got Joe Ryan, who's been good for them as well. Right? That's right, John Ryan. Or Joe Ryan. He's been solid. He was solid against the Yankees. I know that. And then you got Pablo Lopez as well. Joe Ryan, 11-10. Well, he's got a 4.31 ERA, but he did good against the Yankees though. And then obviously you got Pablo Lopez, who was involved in the Luis Arraez trade. He's 11-8 with a 3.66 ERA. That rotation is not bad, but I still think that the Twins might be one and done when the playoffs start. But we'll see. But they're playing against the A's, so they should win tonight. Then for the Diamondbacks, you got Toussaint going for the White Sox against Jarvis. So I think the Diamondbacks should win that game. They've done well in this series. Brewers. They finish off their series with the Cardinals. You got Corbin Burns on the mound against Hudson. Brewers should win that. You got Raggins on the mound for the Royals whenever that starts against Gibson Long. And that's, this is after the suspended game is concluded. So, we'll just have to, we'll know once that comes back. But right now, the Tigers are up 4-0 once they resume that game. You got Zach Wheeler on the mound tonight. 13-6, 3.64 ERA against Ortiz for the Pirates. I expect the Phillies to win that game. Chris Sale is on the mound against the Orioles. This is, four games against the Red Sox. Orioles can clinch the division by this weekend. I think their magic numbers, it's either 1 or 2. But they're going to get it. And then you got Dean Kramer for the Orioles. Luzardo's on the mound tonight for the Marlins against David Peterson for the Mets. So, this is a big game for the Marlins. They win, Cubs lose. They are in sole possession of that third wild card spot. Marcus Stroman is on the mound tonight for the Cubs against Smith Shawver. He's 1-0 with a 4.57 ERA. So, again, this is a big game for the Cubs. Try to salvage this final game. But, it could go the same way as the previous nights where the Cubs have the lead and then the Braves come back. So we'll just have to that's a game to check out. And then you got Ryan Yarbrough on the mound for the Dodgers tonight going up against Chris Flexton, who's 1-8 with a 7.01 ERA. So Dodgers two wins away from 100 wins again, and I expect them to get that. And then you got the Rangers and the Mariners. This is a big series right here. Jordan Montgomery on the mound for the Rangers, and then you got Logan Gilbert for the Mariners. And that's a good pitching matchup. Montgomery's 10-11, 3.25 ERA, and Gilbert 13-7 with a 3.75 ERA. So like Chris Bassett, ERA is a little high, but still under 4, which is good. So, but yeah, those are all the matchups for tonight, and yeah, I mean these are big games for these are big games for obviously the Cubs. You got the Marlins, the Mariners, and the Rangers. I mean the Rangers are trying to clinch their division. Mariners are trying to get themselves back in the playoff picture. Astros are off tonight. They will play 3 against the Diamondbacks starting tomorrow. So they're off for the night. So if the Mariners do end up winning, they at least pick up a half a game on the Astros. So that would make them 1 game back. But if they lose, then they're going to end up being 2 games back. So, but yeah, it's just things can change this weekend. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. We could definitely see things just out of nowhere. I mean, the Blue Jays, I still think they're going to make the playoffs. But I mean, losing 2 out of 3 to the Yankees, just I mean, I obviously one of those games is Garrett Cole was pitching, but they should have won the other night. They should have won that 2-0 game. They haven't scored a run in the series. I mentioned it before. They are being outscored right now in this series 8-0. They have not done anything. And again, they went up against Garrett Cole. I understand that. But you need to win these games. The Yankees have nothing to play for right now. Also, actually, another thing with the Yankees, so they're 81-77 now on the season. So they clinched their, what is it, like their 32nd non-losing season, 32nd straight season. I mean, it's the last time they had a losing season was like 92, I think, 91, 92. It's incredible. I mean, that run has just been incredible. Now, they don't have the World Series to show for it in recent memory, but I mean, listen, I'd rather us be over 500. I didn't want to. I mean, I guess I was kind of like okay with whatever, just because, if they finish over 500, the streak keeps going, because I didn't really want to lose it. But also, if they did finish under 500, then major changes were going to happen. But maybe major changes are going to happen anyways, because of the stuff I talked about before with what Hal Steinbrenner is going to do with this team. So, the investigation with the team and, trying to, see what went wrong this year. So, but I'm happy that that they're not going to finish under 500. I'd rather them not. And hey, they're not going to finish in last place. That's great. Awesome. I talked about this before, but when the Yankees are playing the Red Sox and it's like, this is the battle for last place. I'm like, really? This is what this has come to? Fighting for last place? Really? It is what it is. But, and also what was kind of funny was last night watching the game, when they won, I was like, I don't want the season to end. I want them to keep playing, but that's not the case. Because I kept saying, I just want the season to be over. The season has been just a disaster. But I will miss watching them because, I mean, listen, they're on from April to, if obviously October. I mean, the season will end on October 1st. But, like, when your team's not on, it stinks. Now, with football being back, that's kind of, my attention's been more towards on that, especially now with the Yankees just not being in the playoffs. Obviously, if they were in the playoffs, that would be over football. But now with them being out of it, that's what they got. You got football, but you also do have the postseason as well. The postseason is going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have baseball all day next week. I don't think the times are finalized. I did go through the schedule, but yeah, there's going to be 4 games on for at least 2 days. So it's going to be mayhem. And we will obviously We're going to preview them. I think at least for Monday's obviously going to be like full on, like, wild card, like, recapping the wild card and what happened there, the divisions being wrapped up. And it's going to be just previewing, the American League wild card and the National League wild card series. And then, on Tuesday, same thing. And Wednesday will kind of just be like a recap. And Thursday will probably be a recap as well, previewing the divisions here. I mean, there's just so much with all that. And it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's getting close. I mean, this week flew by. We got one more show tomorrow, obviously, so tune in for that. But yeah, we're at that point in the year. It's already here, and still some stuff needs to be finalized. And tonight, we'll see how tonight goes. Cubs, can they salvage the final game against the Braves, or is it going to be more of the same? Can the Marlins win again to, keep themselves tied or take the lead over the Cubs? The Blue Jays, can they salvage the final game against the Yankees? I mean, again, they're going up against Luke Weaver, so I think they can. But ultimately, they got to do. Can the Blue Jays score a run in this series? Can they? And then, you got the Rays and the Orioles still battling now for the division. Orioles should have that wrapped up. Rangers and Mariners, big series. Diamondbacks and Astros will start tomorrow. And then, it's, for Saturday and Sunday, we'll see how it all goes. And then Monday is when we recap everything. And then playoffs start on Tuesday. And then we're off and running. And we see what happens. Because then we got a champion at the end of the month. September flew by. It really did. It really did. And it's just crazy how time flies. I mean, I'm always going to say that. But it really just... It's the weeks and the days and the weeks just... They go so fast. Even a month. I mean, a month is so short now. It's just, I mean, when I used to be in school, it's just like, just get me to this month. Get me to this month. And it just seemed like sometimes it would drag. Now, I mean, these months are like nothing now. Once you get towards the middle of a month, the month is over. It's over. But, yeah, we only got a handful of games left in the regular season. So, obviously, tomorrow we'll recap the games from tonight. Headline some of the big games. And that'll basically be tomorrow's show, and then it's the weekend. And then that's when, that's when things will finally be finalized. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it with the show for today. I thank you guys for tuning in as always. Let me know what you guys think of what we went over today. Leave a comment, subscribe to the video, and like it, of course. And obviously, go to patreon.com for the exclusive content. So I'll be recording that shortly after this. And a great show. As always, another week is almost in the books, which is crazy. We've been doing this for pretty much a whole month, which is, again, time flies. And time flies when you're having fun. So with that, that's pretty much it for the show. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Yesterday's show is going to be split up into 4 parts. So if you missed anything from yesterday, they will be on both YouTube channels. So make sure to go check that out. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. So once again, I'm Kenneth Gruenfelder, signing off from the GSMC Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. And have a good night. Enjoy the games. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.